Excuse me, Miss Exit Row passengers need to be able-bodied. Are you sure you belong here? The voice cuts through the cabin, hum like a blade through silk. Lauren Pierce opens one eye. The man in seat 2B is staring at her not with concern, but with the kind of smirk that comes from someone who's never been questioned about where they sit. Dominic Ashford. She doesn't know his name yet, but she knows the type. Custom-tailored navy suit, Swiss watch catching the overhead light, the faint scent of cologne that costs more than her monthly rent. He's leaning across the aisle, one eyebrow raised, waiting for her response like a professor who's already decided the student will fail. Because in an emergency, he says louder now, making sure the surrounding rows can hear, "We need someone reliable." Lauren doesn't answer. She closes her eye again, pulls her gray hoodie tighter, and shifts in seat 18D. The fabric is worn thin at the elbows. There's a coffee stain near the zipper that never quite washed out. Her jeans have a carefully mended tear at the left knee thread that doesn't quite match the original denim. She knows what he sees, what they all see. Someone who doesn't belong in exit row. Someone who probably scraped together savings for this red-eye flight. Someone forgettable. The seatbelt clicks as she fastens it. Not the standard way most passengers do, but across her chest, in a diagonal cross pattern, the excess strap tucked precisely under her thigh. It's automatic, muscle memory from a different life. 23 minutes later, both pilots will collapse, and the only person who can land this plane is the woman he just insulted. But right now, she says nothing, just breathes. Counts to 5 on the inhale, 7 on the exhale. Another habit. One that kept her sane when the only sound in her ears was the piercing whine that never quite goes away. Pacific Southwest Airlines Flight 624 pushes back from Gate 14 at San Diego International at 11:47 p.m. The Airbus A350-900's twin Rolls-Royce engines spin to life with a low, almost musical hum that vibrates through the cabin floor. Outside the window, ground crew in reflective vests move with choreographed efficiency, disconnecting the jet bridge, pulling wheel chocks, guiding the aircraft backward into the taxiway. Lauren presses her face against the small, oval window, watching. Not because she's nervous, not because she's never flown before, but because some part of her, the part that still wakes up at 5:30 a.m. without an alarm, that still thinks in terms of heading and airspeed and fuel state, can't help but monitor. She sees the wing walker pause signal to the tug driver. Standard procedure. The delay is minor, maybe 3 seconds longer than optimal, but it's there. Weather check. The night sky over San Diego is clear stars visible despite the city glow, but the captain would have received updated meteorological reports. Fronts moving in from the Pacific. Geomagnetic activity forecast for the next 6 hours. Most passengers wouldn't notice. Most passengers are settling in, pulling out neck pillows and noise-canceling headphones, opening magazines they won't read. In seat 18F, next to the window, a teenage girl clutches a stuffed penguin to her chest. Emily Rodriguez, 16 years old. Unaccompanied minor tag still clipped to her backpack. She's trying not to look scared, but her knuckles are white where they grip the armrest. Lauren glances at her, doesn't smile. Smiling would feel dishonest right now, but nods once. A silent acknowledgement. You're okay. We're okay. Emily's shoulders relax a fraction. 3 rows ahead in first class, Dominic Ashford is holding court. His voice carries despite the engine noise. I'm telling you, Trevor, the diversity mandate is killing this airline industry. You can't lower standards just to hit quotas. Safety should be merit-based, period. Trevor Harding, the man in seat 3. A expensive leather briefcase still clutched in his lap, nods vigorously. Exactly right. And if something goes wrong, the liability is enormous. My firm just settled a case where, gentlemen, can I get you anything before takeoff? The flight attendant's voice is professionally neutral. James Castellano Rook, according to the name tag pinned to his Navy vest, has the kind of calm that comes from experience. Late 20s, dark hair, ex-military bearing in the way he stands. 8 years Navy enlisted before civilian life. Aircraft mechanic on the USS Ronald Reagan. He's seen things, done things, and right now, he's very good at pretending he hasn't heard Dominic's little speech. Scotch, Dominic says without looking up. Macallan, if you have it. I'll see what we have, sir. Rook moves down the aisle, checking seat belts, stowing loose items. When he reaches row 18, he pauses. Lauren is sitting perfectly upright, not reclined even a degree, hands resting on the armrests. Her breathing is measured, controlled. Even in supposed sleep, there's a readiness to her posture that most passengers don't have. Most passengers, but not all. Rook served with carrier pilots for 3 years. He knows what alert rest looks like. He knows the difference between civilian sleep and tactical awareness. He doesn't say anything, just makes a mental note and continues his rounds. In seat 22, see another veteran sits reading a Tom Clancy paperback. Tyrone Wallace, 52 years old, retired Air Force crew chief, 26 years of service from Kadena to Ramstein to Nellis. He has a small radio scanner in his carry-on, one of those multi-band receivers that can pick up everything from weather stations to military frequencies. Legal, but unusual. He glances up as Rook passes, catches the flight attendant's eye. A nod between veterans. We see you. We know. The aircraft taxis onto runway 27. The captain's voice comes over the PA calm, experience the kind of voice that makes nervous flyers relax. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Captain Ross Mitchell. We've been cleared for takeoff. Flight time to Charlotte tonight will be 4 hours and 37 minutes. We'll be cruising at 37,000 feet. Current weather looks good. Clear skies, light winds. Sit back, relax, and we'll have you on the ground at 6:34 a.m. Eastern. Flight attendants prepare for departure. The engines spool up. That characteristic whine to roar that never gets old never stops being a little bit magical. Physics and engineering and controlled explosions pushing 293 souls into the sky. Lauren's left hand twitches, just slightly. An unconscious movement, her thumb and forefinger pinching together where they rest on the armrest as if adjusting a throttle that isn't there. Emily notices. Are you scared of flying? Lauren opens her eyes, looks at the teenager, considers the question. No, she says quietly. It's the first word she's spoken since boarding. This is just takeoff. Real emergency sounds different. Different how? You'll know if you hear it. The Airbus rotates at 160 knots, nose lifting main gear, breaking contact with the runway 3 seconds later. The lights of San Diego fall away below a grid of sodium orange and LED white highways, traced in red taillights and white headlights, the black void of the Pacific beyond. They climb through 10,000 feet. The cabin lights dim. Passengers settle into the rhythms of night flight, some sleeping, some reading, some staring at seatback screens playing movies they've already seen. Lauren watches the ceiling panels, tracks the air vents, counts them. Old habit. Knowing where the oxygen masks drop from, where the nearest exits are. How many rows to each door? 18 to the forward left, 22 to the aft right. Emergency lighting strips along the floor. Photoluminescent would activate if cabin power failed. She knows all this without thinking, the same way she knows that the slight vibration in the airframe right now is normal. Climbing through rough air at the boundary layer, where cold upper atmosphere meets warmer surface currents. It'll smooth out at cruise altitude. 90 minutes into the flight, it doesn't smooth out. The seatbelt sign illuminates with a soft chime. The turbulence is mild, nothing that should concern anyone, but there's a pattern to it. A rhythmic variation that feels wrong. Not atmospheric, not convective weather. Lauren's eyes open. She checks her watch, a cheap Casio with a cracked crystal, and starts counting. 5 seconds of smooth air, 3 seconds of light chop, 7 seconds smooth, 2 seconds chop. It's not random. Her right hand goes to her left ear, pressing gently. The tinnitus is always there, a high-frequency whine like a distant turbine that never shuts off, but sometimes it spikes. Stress, altitude changes, pressure differentials, the gift that keeps on giving, courtesy of an ejection seat that saved her life and cost her career. In the cockpit, Captain Ross Mitchell and First Officer Angela Park are seeing something that doesn't make sense. The GPS position is drifting. Not much, maybe half a mile in the last 10 minutes, but it's consistent. And the backup GPS isn't agreeing with the primary. "You seeing this?" Ross asks. He's 52, former Air Force transport pilot, 23 years with Pacific Southwest. He's seen weird nav anomalies before, solar flares, magnetic deviation near volcanic regions, but this... Angela checks the inertial reference system. IRS matches the primary GPS, but the VOR bearings are off by almost 2 degrees. Geomagnetic storm. Forecast was moderate, but it looks like it's intensifying. Ross keys the radio. Albuquerque Center, Pacific Southwest 624. We're experiencing nav anomalies, possible GPS degradation. Pacific Southwest 624, Albuquerque Center, roger. We're receiving similar reports from multiple aircraft in your area. Geomagnetic activity is higher than forecast. Advise you cross-check all nav sources and report any significant deviations. Will do. 624. Angela makes a note in the logbook. Routine. Professional. But there's a tightness around her eyes. Something feels off tonight. She reaches for the bottled water she's been sipping. Her stomach has been bothering her for the last hour. Nothing serious, probably just the hotel meal from their San Diego layover. Ross had the same thing. Chicken parmesan from the hotel restaurant. It tasted fine at the time. But now... "You okay?" Ross glances over. "Yeah, just a little queasy. You..." "Same. Probably that chicken." They exchange a look. Both thinking the same thing. Food poisoning. Mild, hopefully. Manageable. They've both flown with worse, but it's about to get much worse. In the cabin, Rook is beginning his beverage service. He moves with efficiency born of thousands of flights, balancing the cart, pouring drinks, making small talk. When he reaches row 18, Lauren requests water. Nothing else. "Long flight?" he asks. "Long enough." Something in her tone makes him pause. Not unfriendly exactly, just measured, like someone conserving energy for something more important than small talk. He hands her the water and moves on, but he's still thinking about the way she sits, upright, alert. Even now, 2 hours into a red-eye, she hasn't reclined her seat a single degree. In first class, Melissa Chang has her phone out, recording a selfie video. "Hey guys, Melissa. Here flying first class to Charlotte for the tech conference. Going to show you what luxury travel really looks like." She pans the camera around, shows off the lie-flat seat, the amenity kit, the real champagne. This is how you travel when you've built a following, when you've put in the work. Dominic watches her with thinly veiled contempt. Influencers, another symptom of the declining standards he's convinced are destroying society. But he keeps his mouth shut. She's not worth the energy. Trevor is reviewing case files on his tablet. High-stakes corporate litigation. Millions of dollars on the line. He barely notices when Ross's voice comes over the PA again. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're experiencing some turbulence due to atmospheric conditions. Please ensure your seatbelts are fastened and remain seated until the sign is turned off." Standard announcement. Nothing concerning, except Ross's voice has a slight tremor that wasn't there before, and Angela has just excused herself to the lavatory for the second time in 20 minutes. Dr. Priya Mehta, Seat 9B emergency medicine physician returning from a conference in San Diego, notices. She spent 15 years in ERs learning to read subtle signs. The captain's voice isn't quite right. The first officer has been moving in the cockpit more than usual, visible through the gap when the door opens briefly. Something's wrong. She flags down Rook when he passes. I'm a physician. Is everything okay up front? Rook's professional smile falters for just a second. Why do you ask, ma'am? Instinct. Is someone ill? He hesitates, then lowers his voice. The crew had a meal at their layover, both feeling a bit off. Nothing serious. Food poisoning. Possibly. I'd like to check on them if they need medical attention. I'll pass that along, thank you. But before he can move, Angela emerges from the cockpit, her face pale and sweating. She's moving quickly toward the forward lavatory, one hand over her mouth. The cockpit door is still open. Through the gap, Dr. Mehta can see Ross slumped slightly in his seat, one hand on his stomach. Now, she says to Rook, not a request. They move forward together. Rook knocks twice, enters Dr. Mehta right behind him. Ross looks up. His face is gray, perspiration beading on his forehead. I'm fine. Just need a minute. I'm a doctor, Priya says. Let me examine you. Really, He stops, gags, reaches for the nearby trash bin. Severe food poisoning. Both pilots. Same meal source. The timing couldn't be worse. Angela returns from the lavatory, leaning against the doorframe. Ross, I can't focus. Everything's spinning. Sit down, Priya orders. She checks Angela's pulse, rapid and thready. Pupils dilated, skin clammy. You're both showing signs of severe gastroenteritis, possibly salmonella or E. coli. You're dehydrating fast. We can land, Ross says weakly. Emergency diversion. Las Vegas is 30 minutes. Can you fly for 30 minutes? He tries to sit up straight. Fails. I think so. You can't. Priya's voice is firm. Not unkind, but definitive. You're both in shock. Dehydration is affecting your cognitive function. You need immediate IV fluids and monitoring. Then Angela can... She's worse than you are. The implications hang in the air like a held breath. Rook's training kicks in. I'll make the announcement. We need to find someone with flight experience. Wait! Ross grabs his arm. You can't just... We need proper credentials. Certified pilots. This isn't captain. Priya's voice cuts through. You're about to lose consciousness. So is she. We need help now. Ross slumps back, nods weakly. Rook picks up the PA handset, takes a breath, keeps his voice steady, because that's what you do in emergencies. You project calm, even when your heart is trying to punch through your ribs. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a medical emergency with both of our flight crew members. I need anyone with flight experience, military, commercial, private, to identify yourselves immediately to a flight attendant. This is an urgent request. The cabin goes silent. That particular silence that only comes when 293 people realize simultaneously that they might be in serious trouble. Then the noise starts. Gasps, whispers, someone crying, phones coming out to text loved ones even though there's no cell signal at 37,000 feet. Dominic Ashford stands up. I've flown private jets for 15 years, corporate aircraft. I know cockpit procedures. Trevor stands beside him. Dominic has extensive aviation experience, high-end aircraft. He's the most qualified person here. Melissa has her phone up recording. Oh my God, this is insane. Emergency landing situation, both pilots sick. Stay tuned for updates. From row 22, Ty Wallace looks up from his book. Frowns. Something about this situation is pinging his instincts, but he stays seated, watches, waits. Robert Dixon, retired corporate pilot, seat 8D, stands up with more authority. I have 5,000 hours logged, commercial background, multi-engine turbine. I should take over. Rook is overwhelmed. 2 volunteers, both claiming experience, both exuding confidence. But confidence isn't qualification. He looks around the cabin. Anyone else? Any military pilots? Lauren Pierce doesn't move. Doesn't raise her hand. Doesn't stand. She sits perfectly still in seat 18, D-eyes closed, breathing measured, counting to 5 on the inhale, 7 on the exhale. Emily looks at her. Why aren't you helping? Lauren's eyes open. She looks at the teenager. Because I'm not sure I can. But wait! In the cockpit, Robert Dixon is sliding into the captain's seat. He's confident, practiced. He ran a corporate flight department for 20 years. Flew Gulfstream Citations Learjets. He knows glass cockpits, knows autopilot systems, knows how to talk to ATC. But the Airbus A350 is not a Gulfstream. He stares at the side stick controller on the right side of the seat. Not a yoke, not a control wheel. A small joystick, barely 6 inches tall, operated with wrist movements instead of full arm input. This is different, he mutters. It's fly-by-wire, Rook says from behind him. Electronic control, no direct mechanical linkage. I know what fly-by-wire is. Robert's voice is sharp, defensive. Just need a minute to orient. He touches the side stick. The aircraft banks left, sharply, too sharply. Passengers scream. Robert overcorrects, banks right. The Airbus's flight control computer tries to compensate, limits the roll rate, but the motion is still violent enough that overhead bins pop open, items tumbling out. Stop! Rook grabs the back of the seat. You're making it worse. I just need to get a feel for... The aircraft hits another patch of turbulence. Combined with Robert's inputs, the bank angle increases to 30 degrees. The stall warning chirps. Once, twice. Dr. Mehta, still tending to Ross and Angela in the jump seat, braces herself. Get him out of there. Rook physically pulls Robert back. Sir, with respect, you don't have experience with this aircraft type. I have 5,000 hours. Not in a 350. This isn't a corporate jet. The handling is completely different. Robert's face flushes red, anger and humiliation mixing in equal parts. Then who the hell is going to fly this thing? Silence. Then Dominic's voice from the cabin. I told you. I can do it. I've been flying for years. I understand navigation systems, autopilot, all of it. Trevor pushes forward. Let him try. What have we got to lose? Everything Rook thinks, but doesn't say. He's about to respond when Lauren Pierce appears in the cockpit doorway. Quiet, unassuming, still wearing that worn gray hoodie. I can help, she says. Dominic turns, sees her, and laughs. Actually laughs. You can't even afford decent clothes. What makes you think you can fly a commercial airliner? Trevor joins in. This is ridiculous. We need someone qualified, not some random passenger who, I'm former Navy, Lauren says. Her voice is quiet, but there's steel underneath. But I'm not current. Medical discharge 2 years ago. Medical discharge? Dominic's voice drips with scorn. So you're telling us you're not qualified anymore. You're admitting it. And you want us to trust our lives to someone the military said wasn't fit to fly? I didn't say I was fit. I said I could help. From the cabin, Ty Wallace's voice cuts through. He's standing now, moving forward. Wait. The way she's been sitting, that's a carrier-ready position. Upright alert cross-chest restraint. I've seen it 1,000 times. Rook looks at Lauren. Really looks at her. At the way she stands balanced despite the aircraft's motion. At the way her eyes are already scanning the instrument panel, reading airspeed altitude heading without being told where to look. Are you carrier qualified? He asks. Lauren hesitates. Was. How many traps? 247. The number hangs in the air. Ty Wallace whistles low. 247 carrier landings. That's test pilot numbers. Test pilot. Dominic's laugh is uglier now. That's bullshit. Look at her. She's probably homeless. This is some kind of delusion or shut up. Ty's voice is hard. Ex-military hard. I was a crew chief for 26 years. I know what a carrier pilot looks like. And she's it. Lauren's hands are shaking, just slightly, a tremor in her left hand that she tries to hide by clenching her fist. But Dominic sees it. Look, her hands are shaking. You want someone with tremors flying this plane. That's from an old injury, Lauren says quietly. It doesn't affect my ability to fly. Prove it. I can't prove anything to you. But I can try to get you on the ground alive. Rook makes a decision. Get in the seat. Please. This is insane. Trevor is shouting now. This is going to be a lawsuit. This is negligent homicide if she crashes. If she doesn't try. Rook says, his voice cutting through the noise like a blade. We're going to run out of fuel over the Nevada desert with no one at the controls. So shut up and let her work. Lauren slides into the right seat. First officer position. Her hands go to the controls, not hesitant, not fumbling, but with the automatic precision of someone who's done this thousands of times. She scans the instrument panel. 5 seconds. That's all it takes. Airspeed 290 knots. Altitude 37,000. Heading 075. Fuel 12,000 pounds. She looks at Rook. We're drifting south. Off course by at least 20 miles. Rook stares. How did you... GPS is spoofing. Geomagnetic storm. The compass is showing deviation too. We need to navigate by backup systems. How do you know about the storm? I felt the pattern. Turbulence every 5 to 7 seconds, consistent rhythm. That's not weather. That's electromagnetic interference affecting the flight control computers. Dr. Maida is listening from the jump seat, still monitoring Ross and Angela. Both pilots are unconscious now, their bodies fighting the infection raging through their systems. She's started IV lines, pushing fluids, but they're not going to wake up anytime soon. Can you really fly this? She asks Lauren. Lauren's left hand trembles on the side stick. She looks at it. At the scar tissue visible when her sleeve rides up surgical scar from where they repaired nerve damage 2 years ago. I don't know, she says honestly, but I'm about to find out. From the cabin, Emily's voice, small and frightened. Please don't let us die. Lauren closes her eyes, breathes, 5 count in, 7 count out, then opens them. Get me a headset and find whoever has that radio scanner. I need to contact Nellis or Edwards on an emergency frequency. Why not just use the radio here? Rook asks. Because VHF is degrading. I heard the static on the PA. Geomagnetic storm is going to kill primary comms in the next 20 minutes. I need HF backup, and I need to know the military emergency frequencies. Ty is already moving. I've got a scanner. Row 22. If you're watching this and feeling the same tension as these passengers, the same disbelief, the same desperate hope, hit that like button and subscribe, because what happens in the next few minutes is going to redefine everything you thought you knew about who belongs in a cockpit. Lauren puts on the headset. The tinnitus spikes with the pressure of the earpieces, but she ignores it. Pain is just information. Information she doesn't need right now. She keys the radio. Albuquerque Center Pacific Southwest, 624 declaring emergency. Both pilots incapacitated, nav systems unreliable, requesting immediate assistance. Static. Garbled response. Southwest 6, 4, signal, degraded, repeat. They can't hear us clearly, Lauren says, switching to HF. But the HF radio is already failing. The geomagnetic storm is intensifying faster than forecast, ionizing the upper atmosphere, disrupting every electronic system that depends on clear signal propagation. We're going blind, Lauren says quietly, not panicked, just stating fact. No GPS, no reliable radio, compass deviation. We're essentially flying on instruments from World War II. Can you do that? Dr. Mehta asks. I've done it before in a fighter jet, over hostile territory, with surface-to-air missiles tracking me. This isn't a fighter jet. No, it's bigger and slower. which means if I mess this up, we'll have more time to realize we're dying. The aircraft shudders. Warning chime. Engine 2. Fuel pressure dropping. Lauren's eyes snap to the engine display. We've got contamination. Same source as the food poisoning. What? The refueling truck at San Diego. If it serviced the hotel kitchen and then refueled the aircraft without proper decontamination. We've got bacterial contamination in the fuel system. Rook's face goes white. That's not possible. There are filters. Filters can fail. Lauren is already running calculations. Engine 2 is going to flame out in less than 5 minutes. When it does, we'll be single engine over restricted airspace with no navigation and no communications. Can we restart it? With contaminated fuel, no. We'd risk fire. Then what do we do? Lauren looks at the fuel gauge, at the heading, at the stars visible through the windscreen, the only navigation reference she has left that can't be spoofed by electromagnetic interference. We fly dead reckoning to Nellis Air Force Base. It's the closest field with equipment to handle an emergency landing, but it's in restricted airspace. If we enter without clearance, they might scramble fighters. So we're screwed either way. Unless I can raise them on guard frequency. Where's that scanner? Ty bursts into the cockpit with the handheld radio. 121.5, military emergency. Lauren takes it, keys the transmit. Nellis Tower, any station on guard. This is Pacific Southwest 624 declaring emergency. Single engine imminent nav failure, both pilots incapacitated. Request immediate vectors and priority handling. Static. Then a voice. Faint. Distant, but unmistakable. Aircraft calling on guard. Say call sign. Lauren's breath catches. They heard her. Someone heard her. But before she can respond, Engine 2's master warning light illuminates. The sound changes, that particular dying animal whine of turbines losing power. Flame out, Lauren says. Securing Engine 2. We're single engine. The aircraft yaws to the left. She compensates with rudder, trims it out, adjusts the throttle on the remaining engine to maintain altitude. Fuel flow is dropping faster now. The contamination is spreading. Dominic forces his way to the cockpit door. She's going to kill us. This is insane. I demand she be removed from the controls. Trevor is right behind him. If anything happens, if she crashes this plane, the lawsuits will destroy this airline. This is criminally negligent. Get back. Rook physically blocks them. You're interfering with flight operations? Flight operations. Dominic's voice is shrill now. Pure panic disguised as righteous anger. She's not even certified. She admitted she's medically disqualified. This is... The scanner crackles. That faint voice again. Calling on guard. Repeat call sign and position. Lauren keys the transmit. Her left hand is trembling badly now. Stress response. The nerve damage getting worse under pressure. But her right hand is steady on the side stick, keeping them level, keeping them alive. This is Pacific Southwest 624. Call sign. She hesitates. 2 years since she's said it out loud. 2 years since she's been anything other than a civilian with a medical discharge and a part-time job teaching student pilots how to do touch-and-go landings at a sleepy San Diego airfield. But tonight she's not that person. Tonight she's someone else. Call sign Phoenix, she transmits. I need help. The silence that follows is the longest 5 seconds of her life. Then, Phoenix. The voice is no longer faint. It's sharp, shocked, disbelieving. Phoenix, this is Colonel Sullivan, Nellis Tower. Lauren Pierce. You're supposed to be grounded. Medical discharge, not disciplinary, Lauren says. Her voice is steady now. Professional. The muscle memory coming back like breathing. I need emergency vectors. Single engine fuel, state critical nav failure, 293 souls on board. Holyoke, stand by. I'm clearing the entire Nevada range. What's your position? Best estimate dead reckoning from San Diego track. 37.2, north 1, 15.8, west, heading 240. That's 40 miles off your last GPS position. The storm is worse than forecast. Lauren, you're directly over the test range. If you deviate another 5 miles south, you'll trigger automated defense systems. Then give me a heading to Nellis. Stand by for calculation. In the cabin, passengers are listening to this exchange over the PA. Rook has patched it through so everyone can hear. Ty Wallace is nodding slowly. Phoenix, I've heard that call sign. You're a test pilot. Lauren doesn't answer. Her entire focus is on keeping the aircraft stable. Single-engine flight in an A350 isn't difficult under normal circumstances, but with contaminated fuel, degrading flight controls, and electromagnetic interference playing havoc with every computer system on board, nothing about this is normal. Phoenix Nellis. Turn left heading 230. Descend and maintain flight level 300. We're setting up for emergency approach. Left 230, descending to 300. Phoenix. She rolls the aircraft into a gentle turn. The motion is smooth, controlled. Nothing like Robert Dixon's panicked overcorrections. Dominic is still at the cockpit door, but his voice has changed. Less anger, more fear. We're going to crash. She's going to crash us into the desert. Emily Rodriguez pushes past him. Small, skinny teenage girl with a stuffed penguin and too much courage. Stop it. She's helping. You're just making it worse. Get back to your seat. No, Emily's voice cracks. You're scary and mean, and you don't know anything she does, so shut up and let her work. The raw emotion cuts through the panic. Several passengers actually clap. Dominic shrinks back. Trevor tries to say something, but Melissa has her phone pointed at him, recording every moment of his humiliation for her 600,000 followers. This is going viral, she says. Not gloating, just stating fact. Everyone's going to see this. In the cockpit, the fuel gauge continues dropping. They have maybe 45 minutes remaining, maybe less if the contamination spreads to the remaining engine. Phoenix Nellis, be advised we're picking up multiple aircraft declaring emergencies in your area. The geomagnetic storm has exceeded all forecasting models. You're one of 7 aircraft in distress right now. 7. Which means emergency resources are stretched thin. Which means they're on their own. Understood, Nellis. Can you verify runway condition? Runway 21 left 10,000 feet dry, wind 280 at 15, gusting to 25. And arresting gear, silence. Then, Phoenix. We have barrier cable for emergency use. It's never been deployed for a civilian aircraft. It's been deployed for me, 247 times. On a carrier deck. This is different. It's the same principle, just a longer runway. Lauren. Sullivan's voice drops. Less tower controller, more old friend. You're talking about a carrier approach profile in an Airbus. That's never been done. Then tonight's a night for firsts. The aircraft shudders again. Hydraulic pressure. Warning. System number 1 is failing. Contamination or electronic glitch or just cascading failures because when one thing breaks at altitude, everything else starts to follow. Hydraulics 1 failing, Lauren reports. Her voice is still calm, but her left hand is shaking so badly now that she has to grip the throttle with both hands to keep it steady. I'll need backup system confirmation before landing. Dr. Mehta is watching from the jump seat. She's seen a lot of people under extreme stress. Trauma surgeons, ER doctors, paramedics, working mass casualty incidents. But this woman is something different. This woman is operating at a level most people can't even conceptualize. Your hand, Dr. Mehta says quietly. How bad is it? Bad enough that I couldn't pass a flight physical. Not bad enough that I can't do this. How do you know? Lauren looks at her. Really looks at her. Because if I thought I couldn't, I wouldn't have gotten in this seat. I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, Doctor. But I've never lied to myself about what I can and can't do. The fuel gauge drops into the red. Warning chime. Again and again. Phoenix Nellis, you're 28 minutes out at current speed and altitude. Fuel state, 10 minutes, maybe 15 if I optimize descent profile. That's not enough. I know. Lauren runs the calculations. If she descends now, she can glide farther. But gliding means less control, means no engine power for go-around if the approach goes wrong, means one shot, one chance. She looks at the stars through the windscreen, uses them to verify heading. Polaris off the left nose, Orion rising in the east, the same stars sailors used for 1,000 years before GPS, before inertial navigation, before any of the technology that's currently failing around her. Navigation is just math and observation, and she's very good at both. Phoenix, what's your plan? I'm going to put this aircraft on your runway, Lauren says, and then I'm going to answer a lot of questions from the FAA. You're damn right you are. But there's something in Sullivan's voice, not disapproval, something else. Respect, maybe. Or recognition that sometimes the rules have to break for people to survive. Emily appears in the cockpit doorway. Can I stay here? I'm scared. Lauren glances back, sees the teenager small and frightened and trying so hard to be brave. Yeah, she says. Sit in the jump seat behind Dr. Maida. Buckle in tight. Are we going to make it? Lauren wants to say yes, wants to promise everything will be fine. But she's learned the hard way that promises mean nothing when physics and fuel flow rates say otherwise. I'm going to try, she says instead. That's all I can tell you. Emily sits, clutches her stuffed penguin, starts crying quietly. And Lauren Pierce, former Lieutenant Commander Naval Test Pilot call sign Phoenix, continues flying an aircraft. She's not certified for with fuel. She's not sure will last toward a landing. She's never attempted to save the lives of 293 people who 20 minutes ago didn't know she existed. The fuel gauge continues dropping. The storm continues raging. And somewhere over the Nevada desert in the darkness between stars, a woman with trembling hands and a heart that refuses to quit is about to attempt the impossible. So here's the question that's haunting everyone on that plane right now. And maybe you too, sitting there, watching this unfold. When Lauren puts this Airbus down on that runway, when she tries to execute a carrier landing in an aircraft that was never designed for it with hydraulics failing and fuel almost gone, will her nerve-damaged hand hold steady? Or will 293 people pay the price for her one moment of weakness? Drop your answer in the comments below, because what happens next is going to blow your mind. The screen goes black on Lauren's trembling left hand, hovering over the engine restart switch. The fuel gauge glowing red, and Emily Rodriguez's muffled crying as she presses her face against the stuffed penguin's worn fabric. And in that darkness, 293 people hurtle toward dawn, praying that the woman they insulted is the woman who saves them all. The fuel gauge reads 9 minutes. Lauren knows it's optimistic. Contaminated fuel burns. Unevenly, leaves residue in the lines, clogs filters. They might have 7 minutes. They might have 5. She descends through flight level 280, angling toward Nellis, using every trick she learned. Flying jets off carrier decks where fuel management wasn't just important, it was life or death every single time. Phoenix Nellis, we have crash equipment positioned. Runway, 21 left is yours exclusively. All other traffic has been diverted. Copy. Phoenix needs barrier cable specifications. Height, position, tension rating. Cable is positioned at 4,000 feet down the runway. Height 14 inches above deck. Designed for aircraft up to 70,000 pounds at 150 knots. Lauren does the math instantly. The Airbus weighs closer to 400,000 pounds fully loaded. Even with burned fuel, there's still over 300,000. And her approach speed will be closer to 165 knots because of the hydraulic degradation. The cable wasn't designed for this, not even close, but it's all they have. Phoenix copies. Be advised I'm declaring minimum fuel. No go-around capability, single attempt only. Sullivan's voice tightens. Understood. Phoenix, I have to ask, are you certain about this approach profile? No, Lauren says honestly, but I'm certain we don't have any other options. In the jump seat, Emily is still crying softly. Dr. Mehta has one hand on the girl's shoulder, the other checking Captain Ross's IV line. Both pilots are unconscious, but stable, their bodies fighting infection while their aircraft flies on without them. Ty Wallace appears at the cockpit door with his scanner. I'm picking up chatter on Nellis Ops frequency. They're scrambling their entire emergency response team. Fire trucks, ambulances, the whole 9 yards. They expect us to crash, Lauren says. Not a question. They expect you to try something that's never been done. There's a difference. The aircraft shudders. Another hydraulic warning. System number 2 is degrading now. Not failed yet, but the pressure readings are dropping. Contamination, spreading through fluid lines, or electromagnetic interference corrupting the sensors, or both. She has maybe 60% hydraulic authority remaining. Enough to fly. Barely enough to land. Not enough to survive a mistake. Phoenix Nellis, we're showing you at 21 miles. Current descent rate will put you on a 5-degree glide slope. Recommend you steepen to 7 degrees to manage energy. Negative, I'm planning 8 degrees. Silence. Then, Phoenix 8 degrees is outside civilian approach parameters. Good thing I'm not flying civilian parameters. From the cabin, Dominic's voice carries forward. He's back in first class, now strapped in, but still talking. Still unable to shut up, even when death is circling. This is insane. She's going to slam us into the runway. We need to protest. We need to... Mr. Ashford, Rook's voice is ice. If you speak one more word, I'm restraining you as a safety hazard. Is that clear? Dominic goes silent, but the fear in his eyes says everything his mouth can't. Lauren checks her watch. The cheap Casio with the cracked crystal. 6 minutes of fuel remaining, maybe less. She rolls into a steeper descent. The airspeed increases. 180 knots. 190. The aircraft is heavy momentum building, but she needs the speed for what comes next. Phoenix, you're high on profile. Intentional. I need the energy. What she doesn't say is that she's treating this like a carrier approach. High and fast initially, then bleeding energy in the final 2 miles, using the steep descent angle to dissipate speed without relying on thrust, because thrust requires fuel they don't have. It's a balancing act. Energy management. The same math problem she solved 247 times before, but those were in FA-18 Super Hornets that weighed 30,000 pounds, not Airbus wide-bodies that weigh 10 times that. The scale is different. The physics are the same. Phoenix, we have you at 15 miles. Field in sight. Lauren looks through the windscreen. The desert below is black. No city lights, no highways, just darkness. But ahead, cutting through that darkness, like a knife through silk, she sees them runway lights. Brilliant white, perfectly aligned, marking the only safe place for 1,000 square miles. Field in sight, she confirms. Phoenix has the runway. Her left hand is shaking violently now, the tremor spreading up her forearm into her shoulder, stress and adrenaline and nerve damage all conspiring to remind her why the medical board grounded her. But her right hand is steady and her right hand is on the side stick, and that's all that matters. Hydraulics 2 showing amber, she reports. Partial pressure loss, Can you still control the aircraft? Yes, but I'm losing authority. Landing will be firm. Firm. That's pilot speak for controlled crash. A landing hard enough to damage gear buckle airframe, send maintenance crews scrambling. But survivable. Probably. Phoenix, be advised, when you touch down, you need to maintain center line precisely. The barrier cable has only 12 feet of lateral tolerance on each side. If you drift, the hook assembly could tear off your landing gear. Understood. I've done this before. Not in an Airbus. First time for everything. 10 miles. The runway is clearer now. She can see the approach lights, the precision approach path indicator, showing red over white, slightly high on glide path, which is exactly where she wants to be. 8 miles. The aircraft shudders again. Master warning, engine 1, fuel pressure fluctuating. Come on, Lauren whispers. Not to the aircraft, not to the engine, to herself. Just a little longer. 6 miles. Emily's voice from behind. Are we going to make it? Lauren glances back. The teenager's face is tear-streaked, but no longer panicked. There's something else there now. Trust, maybe. Or just exhaustion. The kind that comes when you're too scared to be scared anymore. Yes, Lauren says. And this time, she means it. 4 miles. She starts bleeding off speed, reduces power to idle. Not flight idle, ground idle. The engine spools down. Fuel flow drops to minimum. Every second she can glide is one less second burning fuel they don't have. The aircraft descends faster now, sink rate increasing. 1,000 feet per minute, 1,500, 2,000. Phoenix, you're showing excessive sink rate. I'm aware. 3 miles. Through the windscreen, she can see the crash trucks positioned along the runway, fire foam equipment, ambulances, emergency personnel standing ready because when things go wrong at 165 knots, you measure response time in seconds. 2 miles. Speed bleeding back now. 170 knots. 165. The aircraft is heavy fighting the descent, but she has the angle she needs. She extends the landing gear. Mechanical locks click into place. 3 green lights on the panel. Gear down and locked. The drag increases dramatically. The descent steepens further. Phoenix 1 mile. Cleared to land, runway 21 left. All equipment is standing by. Lauren's hands are on the controls, right hand on the side stick, left hand on the throttle despite the violent shaking. She can feel the aircraft responding to every input, but there's a mushiness to it now. The hydraulics degrading in real time, like trying to steer a car through mud. Half mile. She can see the barrier cable, a thin line stretched across the runway, 14 inches high, 4,000 feet from the threshold. She needs to touch down before that cable, let the nose gear settle, and hope the cable catches on the main gear assembly without tearing anything critical off the aircraft. No pressure. 2,000 feet. Sullivan's voice. Phoenix, you're slightly left of center line. She corrects. The side stick movement is tiny millimeters, but the aircraft responds sluggishly. The degraded hydraulics making every input feel delayed, imprecise. 1,000 feet. Sink rate still 2,000 feet per minute. Speed 160 knots. She's coming in hot and steep, and if she misjudges the flare by even a second, they'll hit so hard the gear will collapse. 500 feet. Phoenix, you're on profile. Looking good. She doesn't respond. Every ounce of concentration is on the picture through the windscreen. The runway rising to meet them. The threshold lights rushing past. 300 feet. Her left hand is shaking so badly she can barely hold the throttle. But she doesn't need power anymore. They're committed. Either they make the runway, or they don't. 200 feet. The ground is close enough now that she can see individual lights, can see the texture of the concrete, can see the fire trucks tracking their descent. 100 feet. She starts the flare, pulling back on the side stick, Gentle, smooth, letting the descent rate bleed off. The nose starts to rise. The sink rate decreases. 1,700 feet per minute. 1,500. 1,000. 50 feet. Emily's voice behind her. Oh God, oh God, oh God. 20 feet. The main gear touches. Not gently. There's nothing gentle about dropping 300,000 pounds of aircraft onto a runway at 160 knots. The impact is massive. The entire airframe shudders. Passengers scream, but the gear holds. Lauren plants the nose gear immediately. No time for finesse. She needs weight on all three trucks before they reach the cable. The nose slams down. Another shudder. Another impact that rattles teeth and loosens overhead bins. The barrier cable is 3 seconds away. She activates maximum braking. The anti-skid system fights her, trying to prevent the wheels from locking, but with degraded hydraulics, the response is uneven. The aircraft pulls slightly right. She corrects. Hold center line. 2 seconds. The cable is a blur underneath them. Thin metal wire stretched across the runway under tension, designed to catch the hook assembly on military fighters. But this is an Airbus. There is no hook assembly. The cable will catch on the main landing gear struts themselves. 1 second. Contact. The cable catches on the left main gear. The tension yanks the aircraft violently. 300,000 pounds of momentum hits an immovable object. The deceleration is brutal. Instantaneous. 5 Gs of force slamming everyone forward against their seatbelts. Passengers scream. Overhead bins explode open. Luggage becomes projectiles. The structural load is beyond anything the aircraft was designed for, but the gear holds, the cable holds, and the Airbus stops. 1,100 feet of runway remaining. Engines silent. Every warning light on the panel illuminated, but stopped. Safe. Alive. For 3 seconds, there's absolute silence. Then the cabin erupts. Cheering, crying, laughter mixed with sobs. The sound of 293 people realizing they're not going to die tonight. Lauren sits perfectly still. Her hands are shaking, both of them now. The adrenaline crash hitting like a freight train. She's alive. They're alive. She just did something that every regulation, every manual, every aviation authority would say was impossible. And she did it anyway. Rook appears in the cockpit doorway. His eyes are wet. I've been flying for 12 years. I've never seen anything like that. Emergency vehicles approaching. Ty reports from behind. His voice is thick with emotion. Fire trucks, ambulances, they're surrounding us. Dr. Mehta is checking Captain Ross and First Officer Angela, both still unconscious, but vital signs stable. They need immediate hospital care, but they're going to live. Emily unbuckles and throws her arms around Lauren from behind. The teenager is sobbing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Lauren reaches back with her right hand. Her left is still shaking too badly and squeezes the girl's arm. You okay? I thought we were going to die. We didn't. Outside ladders are being positioned. Emergency personnel in full protective gear swarm the aircraft. Within seconds, the forward door opens. Colonel Marcus Sullivan boards first, 58 years old, former Navy aviator, 23 years of service before transitioning to tower operations. He trained alongside Lauren's squadron 8 years ago, watched her earn that call sign, watched her become a legend. He stops at the cockpit door, takes in the scene. Lauren still strapped into the first officer seat, hands trembling, face pale with exhaustion. The instrument panel looking like a Christmas tree, with every warning light illuminated. Lieutenant Commander Pierce, he says formally, then drops the formality. Lauren, that was the most incredible piece of airmanship I've ever witnessed. I had good training. Training doesn't account for that. That was instinct, experience, skill that can't be taught. On the cockpit display screen, a video feed activates. A face appears, sharp features, graying hair pulled back admiral stars on her collar. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chen, Naval Air Systems Command, based at Patuxent River, where Lauren trained, where she earned her test pilot wings. Phoenix, Chen says. Her voice carries weight, authority. We've been tracking this situation for the last 30 minutes. Your medical waiver paperwork was incomplete when you separated. We need to talk. Lauren stares at the screen. I was medically discharged. Permanent. Non-reversible. That was the determination at the time, under standard protocols. But what you just demonstrated suggests that perhaps our protocols are inadequate for evaluating pilots of your caliber. Sullivan is nodding. The Secretary of Defense has been briefed. This situation has triggered a review of how we evaluate medical limitations versus operational capability. I have nerve damage, Lauren says flatly. It's permanent. You saw my hands. We saw you land an aircraft that most pilots with perfect health couldn't have managed. We saw you navigate through electromagnetic interference using dead reckoning. We saw you execute a carrier approach in a wide-body commercial jet with degraded hydraulics and contaminated fuel. Chen leans forward on the screen. Lauren, there are maybe 5 people in the world who could have done what you just did. And we're about to lose more qualified pilots because our medical standards focus on perfect physical condition rather than demonstrated capability under extreme stress. Passengers are deplaning now, moving down the emergency slides, fire crews helping them, medical personnel triaging, everyone shaken but alive. Dominic Ashford stumbles off the aircraft. His expensive suit is rumpled. His face is gray. Trevor Harding is right behind him, looking equally devastated. Melissa Chang's phone is still recording. The video of Dominic's racist comments during the emergency has already been uploaded. Already going viral. 600,000 followers seeing exactly what kind of person he is when lives are on the line. Ty Wallace stops beside Lauren before deplaning. My daughter is a pilot. She struggled with PTSD from her deployment. The military said she couldn't fly anymore because of panic attacks under stress. He pauses. Tonight, you showed her and me that limitations aren't always disqualifying. Thank you. Dr. Mehta is supervising the medical evacuation of Captain Ross and First Officer Angela, both loaded onto stretchers, IV lines still running. You saved them too, she says to Lauren. 20 more minutes in the air, they might not have made it. You bought them time. Emily is the last to leave the cockpit. She places the challenge coin, the one that fell from Lauren's backpack, on the center console. I don't know what this means, but I think you need it more than me. Lauren picks up the coin, weathered brass, Eagle and Trident insignia, NALCAD Pax River Test Pilot School, class of 2018. She stares at it, at the worn edges, at the reminder of who she was before the medical board decided she wasn't fit to fly. Sullivan sits in the captain's seat. I need to hear the story. The real story. You were reported killed in action. Ejection seat malfunctioned during carrier ops. We searched for 3 weeks. Found wreckage, but no body. Lauren's eyes close. The memories are there. Always there. Just below the surface. She's back on the carrier deck. USS Theodore Roosevelt. Night operations, storm rolling in, her FA-18 Super Hornet loaded for a training sortie, catapult shot, perfect, airborne in 2.3 seconds, climbing through rough air, standard training evolution, then the hydraulic failure, both systems, complete loss. The controls went dead in her hands, the aircraft rolling inverted at 400 knots over black water. She'd initiated ejection. The canopy blew, the seat fired. But the timing was wrong, fractionally wrong. Her helmet hit the canopy rail. The impact transmitted through her skull down her spine into every nerve bundle on her left side. She landed in the water, survived, was recovered, but the damage was done. Was nerve damage, permanent hearing loss, tremors in her left hand that would never fully resolve. The medical board was efficient, thorough, sympathetic, but firm. Lieutenant Commander Pierce, your service record is exemplary. Your skills are undeniable. But current regulations require full physical capability for carrier operations. We cannot certify you fit for duty. She'd argued, pleaded, demonstrated that she could still fly, still land, still execute every maneuver required. They'd been unmoved. Regulations are regulations. Standards are standards. Medical discharge, honorable, permanent, final. She opens her eyes. Sullivan is watching her. Chen is watching through the video screen. I couldn't pass the physical, Lauren says quietly. So I stopped trying. Got a job teaching basic flight training. Moved to a cheap apartment. Tried to pretend I wasn't angry every single day that I couldn't do the one thing I was born to do. And tonight? Chen asks. Tonight I didn't have a choice, so I did it anyway. Sullivan stands, extends his hand. On behalf of Naval Aviation, thank you for reminding us what actually matters. Lauren shakes his hand. Her left hand is still trembling. May always tremble, but it doesn't matter anymore. The FAA investigation begins within hours. Interviews with every passenger, review of the cockpit voice recorder, analysis of the flight data recorder, statements from tower personnel, examination of the aircraft. The findings are clear. Lauren Pierce violated approximately 47 federal aviation regulations, operated an aircraft without proper certification, exceeded operational limitations, endangered passengers by attempting an unauthorized approach profile. The recommendations are equally clear. No criminal charges. The violations were committed under emergency conditions with no reasonable alternatives. All passengers survived. Both pilots survived. The aircraft, while severely damaged, can be repaired. But the consequences ripple outward. Dominic Ashford's company loses 3 major contracts within 72 hours. The viral video of his racist comments reaches 28 million views. His board of directors requests his resignation. He refuses. They vote him out anyway. Unanimous. Trevor Harding's law firm drops him as a partner. Professional liability insurance won't cover discrimination cases, and his comments during the emergency constitute evidence of bias that could compromise dozens of ongoing litigations. Melissa Chang gains 400,000 new followers, but she also gains a reputation as someone who prioritizes content over compassion. Several sponsors drop her. The ones who remain insist on revised brand guidelines that essentially muzzle her. The ripple effects aren't all destructive. Emily Rodriguez writes an essay about the experience for her college applications. The night I learned that heroes don't look like movies. It's powerful enough that she receives early admission to MIT with a full scholarship. Dr. Priya Mehta co-authors a paper on emergency medical response in aviation incidents. It becomes required reading for flight crew medical training. Ty Wallace reconnects with his daughter, helps her find a civilian aviation program that accommodates PTSD. Within a year, she's flying again. Not military, but flying. Captain Ross Mitchell and First Officer Angela Park recover fully from the food poisoning. Both return to flight duty. Both insist on meeting Lauren, thanking her, acknowledging that without her intervention, they'd be dead. The lawsuit threats from Dominic and Trevor never materialize. Their lawyers quietly inform them that any legal action would require them to testify about their conduct during the emergency, under oath, on record, with video evidence contradicting virtually every claim they might make. They decline to pursue litigation. 3 weeks after the emergency landing, Lauren is back at her small San Diego flight school, teaching a student pilot how to do touch-and-go landings. The same routine she's done hundreds of times. Patient, methodical. Watching as someone else learns the basics of flight. Her phone rings. Unknown number. She almost doesn't answer. This is Rear Admiral Patricia Hastings, Naval Personnel Command. Is this Lieutenant Commander Pierce? Lauren's stomach tightens. I'm not a lieutenant commander anymore. Medical discharge. I'm aware of your discharge status. That's why I'm calling. We'd like to discuss a position, instructor role, teaching carrier qualification to new pilots. No flight status required initially. Shore duty only. I don't understand. Commander Pierce, you demonstrated something we've been trying to teach for decades and failing. Decision-making under impossible circumstances. Energy management. Improvisation within the bounds of physics. We want you to teach that. I can't fly carriers anymore. You don't need to. You need to teach others how to think like you think, how to see problems like you see them, how to turn impossible situations into survivable outcomes. Lauren looks out across the tarmac, at the student pilot in the Cessna practicing patterns, at the blue sky, at the life she's built from the wreckage of the life she lost. When would I start? When you're ready. But doors are opening, Commander. Opportunities we didn't think existed. The Secretary of the Navy wants to meet you. The Chief of Naval Operations wants to understand your approach. There's talk of revising medical evaluation protocols based on your case. I'm not a test case. No, you're proof that we've been evaluating the wrong things. Hastings pauses. I served with your father. He'd be proud of what you did. The phone call ends. Lauren sits in her car, stares at Emily's thank you card taped to her dashboard. You showed me heroes don't look like movies. Thank you, Phoenix. On her desk at home, the challenge coin sits beside a photograph she hasn't looked at in 2 years. Her squadron. 23 pilots, 16 jets. Carrier deck at sunset. She was Phoenix then. Call sign earned through skill and courage, and 247 successful carrier landings. Medical discharge didn't erase that. Nerve damage didn't erase that. 2 years of teaching basic maneuvers to students who'd never faced combat didn't erase that. She was Phoenix then. And maybe she still is. The phone rings again. Different number. Colonel Sullivan. Lauren, I have someone here who wants to meet you. General Catherine Morrison. 3 stars. She's been tasked with creating a new pilot evaluation framework. Testing versus regulation. Capability versus condition. Your name came up. I'm listening. There's a job. Advisory position. Helping redesign how we assess fitness for flight duty. Not just for you. For everyone. Veterans with PTSD. Pilots with hearing loss. Anyone who can demonstrate capability but fails current medical standards. That's policy work. I'm not a policy person. You're a pilot who broke policy to save lives. That makes you exactly the right person. Lauren looks at the horizon, at the sky that's been calling her since she was 8 years old, watching jets take off from Miramar. Tell the general I'll meet with her, but I'm not making any promises. Fair enough. The sunset over San Diego is fire orange and deep purple. The kind that makes photographers reach for cameras and poets reach for words. But Lauren just watches it, breathes it, lets it remind her that some things are worth fighting for even when the fight seems impossible. Her left hand trembles. It always will. Permanent nerve damage doesn't heal, doesn't improve, doesn't go away because you want it to. But it doesn't matter. Because in the end, what matters isn't whether your hands shake. What matters is whether you reach for the controls anyway, whether you make the attempt, whether you risk everything for 293 people who will never know what it cost you to save them. Dominic Ashford learned that lesson too late. He learned that confidence isn't competence, that judgment based on appearance is judgment without information, that the person you dismiss might be the only person who can save you. Trevor Harding learned that credentials on paper don't equal skill under pressure, that legal threats are meaningless when physics is the judge. Melissa Chang learned that some moments deserve to be lived rather than recorded, that content isn't worth more than compassion. But Emily Rodriguez learned the most important lesson of all, that heroes don't announce themselves, don't demand recognition, don't fit into neat categories that make us comfortable. Heroes are the woman in worn clothes sleeping in exit row, the veteran with PTSD who shares his radio scanner, the doctor who tends to unconscious pilots instead of panicking, the flight attendant who trusts competence over credentials. Heroes are ordinary people who do extraordinary things when circumstances demand it, and sometimes, just sometimes, they're the pilot everyone said wasn't fit to fly. Lauren Pierce drives home through the San Diego twilight, past the naval base where she trained, past the carrier pier where she earned her wings, past the life she lost and the life she's building. Her left hand trembles on the steering wheel, and she doesn't care, because tonight she's Phoenix again. And Phoenix doesn't land softly. Phoenix lands on fire. Phoenix rises from ash. Phoenix saves lives. The challenge coin sits on her passenger seat, catching the last rays of sunlight, eagle and trident gleaming. Tomorrow she'll make some phone calls, consider some offers, maybe start teaching a different kind of student in a different kind of classroom. But tonight, she's just a pilot who did her job, who kept her passengers alive, who proved that sometimes the only credential that matters is the willingness to try when everyone else has given up. In a cheap apartment in San Diego, there's a voicemail waiting from Rear Admiral Hastings, a formal offer, teaching position, advisory role, opportunities opening. There's an email from the Secretary of the Navy, a request to speak, questions about medical policy reform. There's a text message from Emily Rodriguez, just 3 words. Thank you, Phoenix. Lauren reads them all, considers them all, makes no immediate decisions, because some decisions require time, require thought, require certainty about what you want versus what others expect. But as she falls asleep that night in worn clothes in a cheap bed in an apartment that costs more than she can afford, she dreams of flight. Not the flight that ended her career, not the ejection that damaged her nerves, but the flight 3 weeks ago, when she was Phoenix again, when 293 lives depended on her, when she looked at impossible odds and said one simple word, yes, and that made all the difference. The night sky over Nevada holds stars that have guided travelers for millennia, the same stars Lauren used to navigate when GPS failed, when technology broke, when nothing remained except knowledge and courage and the willingness to attempt the impossible. Those stars are still there, still burning, still offering guidance to anyone willing to look up. And somewhere in the darkness between them, a worn challenge coin catches starlight and remembers what it means to be Phoenix. Not the bird from legend, not the symbol from stories, but the pilot from San Diego who saved lives with shaking hands and iron will, and the knowledge that sometimes heroism isn't about being perfect. Sometimes heroism is about being good enough, at exactly the right moment, in exactly the right place, with exactly the right courage to try.
Töne, sondern lasst uns angenehmere anstimmen und Feuertrunken himmlische dein Heiligtum, deine Zauber binden wieder, was die Mode streng geteilt. Alle Menschen werden Brüder, wo dein sanfter Flügel weilt. Deine Zauber binden wieder, was die Mode streng geteilt. Alle Menschen werden Brüder, wo dein sanfter Flügel weilt. Wie der große Wunsch gelungen, eines Freundes Freund zu sein, der ein holdes Weib errungen, mische seinen Jubel ein, der auch eine Seele seinen auf den Erdengrund und wir stiegen von der Stille, weinen sich aus diesem Grund.